Hello there, my name is Paige and welcome to my recorded workshop for how to teach grammar in the online classroom. I hope you're able to join me later for a live workshop where we will also be going over all of this content plus class clips and you can interact with me and ask me questions, but I know that scheduling is hard, so let's go ahead and dive on into the content.
Again, welcome to my workshop where we're going to be going over everything about the grammar in the online classroom. This is a little bit about me. I have taught brick and mortar and I have taught elementary, middle, and high school, and this is a little bit about my expertise. If you're watching this in the future, it is possible that I have moved, so just keep that in mind. I'm recording this in March of 2019. Now, let's talk about why grammar is important first of all. Grammar is kind of like the structure and building blocks of language. So as our students learn to speak and write and put things together, they're using grammar. So it's really important that the instruction and their understanding of it is solid. Now in English, this can be particularly tricky because unfortunately one small thing can change the meaning entirely. For example, one comma makes a big difference here. You can say you want to eat your grandmother, or you can be inviting your grandmother to eat. I know there's definitely one that is a lot more appropriate than the other. We're going to talk about three main things. The first is the approach to teaching grammar inside of the GoGo Kid curriculum. The second is common grammar errors for students and correction strategies. Then third, we have strategies for teaching grammar. There are four main approaches to teaching grammar. First is deductive. Deductive is when you teach the grammar rule. This is a quick and easy method that's understood by older learners. However, it may not result in long-term learning. The second approach is the inductive approach. This allows learners to discover the rules through examples. It is very effective for long-term learning, but it can take time and many exposures. The functional approach teaches what learners need to function in everyday life. It's fast and serves an immediate need, but it can be unclear on where you need to start, and the learner may not gain academic language. Finally, we have the informal approach, which is where you teach through stories and songs. This is very fun and engaging, and it can potentially help the students with their fluency, but they may not gain the foundational skills they need. Now, I want you to think about which approach you have the most experience with and which approach you use the most in class. If you want to see grammar topics levels 2 through 4, I recommend you pause and go through all of this content. It is not in order by unit, it is simply in order by level. Before level 2, the grammar is simple and taught in context, and there's no explicit grammar slides. The content listed here is the kind of the content you will find on the grammar slides. Again, in the future, if you're watching this, it is possible that maybe some of the content is shifted around just a little bit, but this is a good guideline for what topics you'll be covering for each level, and hopefully in the near future we will have a level beyond level 4. Now, these are the top 5 errors for English learners. The first is subject-verb agreement. Second, incorrect pronouns. Run-on sentences, incorrect homophones. And again, homophones are when you have the same sounding word, but it's different, like bear, bear, B-A-R-E, and B-E-A-R, or incorrect verb tense. Now, I want you to think about which errors you've seen in class and how you correct your students. Now, a common thing that I will have in my lower level classes is they will mistakenly call a boy a girl, he, she, and you can easily make that a joke like, boy, girl, and like teach them the context of it. So just keep that in mind that you want to continue to use all of the strategies that you already have when you're teaching grammar. Just because it's grammar and you might think, oh, well, grammar is not very fun, doesn't mean that um, you don't have to engage them the same way. We still want to use all the same engagement strategies that we already know. Now, when you have a student make an error, you want to ask yourself this question. Does this error impede understanding? Do I still know what they mean? So if we still know what they mean, we know that they still have a pretty good understanding of how to put things together. It's a small thing we can tweak there to make it grammatically correct. So then of course offer that correction, but then say, yes, I understand, and then offer the correction and make sure that they're able to get that correction down throughout the class. These are the correction methods that are recommended. First of all, we want to circle the mistake. I never interrupt a student while they are speaking. So if they are an upper level student and they are reading, I will simply circle it or underline it. Then once we have a break, we will offer the correction, explain it. You also need to review the rule as necessary. After you reviewed and used the correction strategies, you want to ask a follow-up question to make sure they are understanding it correctly. So by asking a follow-up question, you're able to make sure that that learning has stuck, and you can also include the errors that they've made in feedback and some suggestions for further practice. Now I want you to think about how you can correct your students and how you can be sure they understand the correction. In my live workshop, I offer class clips where we watch clips of students and we discuss them together. If you want to see these error correction methods in action, I highly recommend you check out a live workshop with me. Make sure you're always offering corrections and assistance in a positive way. Think about language acquisition like climbing up a mountain. It's really hard enough without someone criticizing every little stumble or every little mistake that you make. So our students, they want the corrections because they want to improve, and we've created a welcoming classroom environment. Just make sure you continue to do so with the corrections that you offer. Now I want to show you something, and I want you to see if you know what it is I'm showing you. What is this? Take a moment, pause, look at your screen. This is actually an excerpt from Beowulf in Old English, and I included this as an example to share that, the structure of the English language has changed quite dramatically over the course of history. So just keep that in mind that just because there are small errors here and there does not mean that they're completely off the wall. Language is an evolving kind of organic thing that we as humans use and change to fit our needs. And language will continue to evolve and it will continue to change. With slang, we see this like we have course words that are not academic that are added to the dictionary every year, and you'll hear people talk in real life. And of course, the grammatical structure of spoken English can be quite informal depending on the context. We are, of course, teaching our students mostly formal and academic language in the classes. Now, there's two main types of grammar slides inside the curriculum. You will find instruction slides and practice slides. In the instruction slides, you will first tell students what they're going to learn. You will read and explain all of the content. You will then go through the examples and check for understanding. And finally, you will explain or give further examples as necessary. In the practice slides, this is after you've done instruction, it's really, really important that you do not speed through the instruction slides, because if you do, then you'll find that there is difficulty with the practice slides. So then after you do instruction, explain the practice, model using the I do, we do, you do method, model how to do it, do one together, have them do it, and make sure that you're not just letting them struggle on their own. Of course, I do sometimes have students who will speed through and know the rule and study before class. Great, then extend and ask them more questions and give examples. Make sure you're also offering corrections or explanations as appropriate, and engage students with further practice if there is time to extend. You can always go to the interactive whiteboard inside the classroom and do more examples there. The first strategy I want to talk about is visuals. This can include graphic organizers, drawings, and diagrams. If you would like to see these strategies in action and specific examples in the live workshop, I include class clips and we discuss them, so I highly recommend you check out the live workshop. Here are some examples. I will go to the whiteboard and write a sentence with students. There are sometimes slides where you have a jumbled word and you can represent it visually. My student and I here decided to make a fun little fish for the word where. And we said, where's the fish? And I had a little fish puppet and we talked about that for a bit. So it just goes to show that there's visual ways, and you can also go to another space in the classroom like the whiteboard and demonstrate how to do something. You're not limited just to the pre-made slides. Another example is creative examples. So these are any examples that you can think of. Use that creative side of your brain. You can use examples from stories or songs. Jazz chants are chants where you repeat a sentence structure over and over again in a fun way, like I am, he is, she is, they are, we are. And you can chant that way and make it a fun little song. That way your student will have it in their brain, they'll remember it, and it isn't just a bunch of boring sentences they have to remember. The third strategy is concept attainment. In this strategy, it's a little bit higher level. The teacher would identify examples or make examples, and then you need to identify and sort them as correct or incorrect. Now, for example, you will basically be explaining the rule and sorting them of yes, they follow the rule or no, they do not. So in the classroom, I would make a table or just a quick T-chart in the whiteboard and put yes and no, and we can talk about examples, and then we can say, does it fit the rule? Yes or no, and explain why. This fits into the inductive strategy as well that we talked about earlier here in the PowerPoint. Okay. Now, you also want to make sure you're utilizing the review slide. The review slides are the last couple of slides before the goodbye slide. These are really great because they go over all of the content and you can use them to review the grammar specifically. First, you want to make sure you clarify the goals for your student, review the material, and check for their understanding. Then you want to give the student specific things to work on. You can practice concepts they have not yet mastered and tell them what to review for next time. Note it in the class evaluation as well. Then you can review and extend the material as appropriate. If there is time, extend using the review slide. Make sure you also think about pacing. So if you are getting to the end and you have a full 5 minutes, you probably want to, for the next couple of classes you teach later on, you want to think about, okay, how can I do some extension earlier in the class? Now there's a timer. I will sometimes time the student and have them see how fast they can read or go over the examples. You also can take this time to ask if they have any questions. Now, in the live workshop, we will also include a Q&A where you can ask and do questions, and we can tailor the material as appropriate inside a live workshop. Now, I want to thank you for joining me for this recorded workshop. I hope to see you soon in a live one. Thank you for joining me, and bye-bye.